Good afternoon and welcome. My name is Sarah Ozark, Client Solutions Manager here at JPL and your host for today's webinar, Return on Experience. We're broadcasting live from our headquarters in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania at our JPL studios. So we wanted to take this opportunity to give you a behind the scenes peek on how we make virtual events happen and give you a little bit of background of who we are if we haven't had the opportunity to meet yet. So I promise we won't be doing this whole event from the hallway. So, first part of our tour, we are going to go ahead and to our experiential lab. And with our experiential lab for virtual events that we host for our internal team members or our clients, we turn into one of our virtual control rooms. And so behind me, we have our PowerPoint operator, our app tech lead, as well as our technical director. Can I get a thumbs up, guys? Whoa, and a wave. I love it. Moving on to our second control room. This is where our webinar moderator is, our audio engineer, and our show caller. Awesome. We don't want to disturb them. But ultimately, JPL is a fully integrated agency where we're able to not only help your brands and your teams with virtual events, but we're able to help with strategy, creative, design, web, paid media, and of course, live and immersive experiences. We're able to make full end-to-end solutions for you to make a greater impact with your attendees and your customers. So let's go ahead and get started. So let's set the stage for today's webinar and what we'll be covering today. We're going to frame why events matter more than ever, detail how audience expectations are shifting, discuss what your 2026 must-dos are, introduce LEAP, which I'm very excited about, on how you can better measure and optimize and prove impact for your events, and we'll share a practical checklist that you can use immediately to elevate your next event. We'll then wrap up with open Q&A. So, our subject matter experts. Ryan, let's go ahead and start with introductions with you.
Great, thanks. Hello, my name is Ryan Podlowski. I'm the Chief Technical Officer here at JPL. I do a lot of dot connecting to make sure we match the right tech with the right client solution. And as you know, there's no shortage of that in live events. So happy to be here. Virginia?
I'm Virginia Stripauer, Associate Creative Director here at JPL, where I lead experience design. I specialize in translating brand stories into immersive real-world experiences that engage audiences and drive action. Over the past decade, I've worked across branded environments, large-scale events, and visual storytelling, helping brands really create moments that are not only memorable, but meaningful. Jeff?
I'm Jeffrey Haskett, Manager of Event Production, and for the last 25 years, I've been obsessed with creating experiences that matter. I strive to bridge creativity with data and vision with execution.
Oh, awesome. Thank you all. Quick housekeeping items for all of our attendees. We've saved time at the end for Q&A, so please drop your questions into the Q&A tab as we go. And we'll go ahead and tackle as many as we can live. As you have thoughts, ideas, comments, or on the content throughout the conversation, please drop those into the chat too as well. One final reminder, yes, today's session is being recorded. You'll receive a link to the full webinar afterwards so that you can rewatch and share with your extended teams. So, before we dive in, I have one quick question to get a sense of where everyone is at so that we can tailor our conversation for today. Just drop those answers into the chat thread. So the question that I want to ask is, what is your biggest event challenge in 2026? You know, as we start to look for, as some of our folks start to respond, I know Virginia, I've heard a lot of avoiding hybrid fatigue. A ton of people are on Teams and Zoom meetings all the time. I've also heard a lot about doing more with less budget, but still making it impactful. You know, getting leadership to see events as an investment and not just a cost. But looking in our chat too here as well, you know, we want to start to engage people more. So Virginia, what is your take on getting people to stay engaged?
Yeah, that's a really great question. I would say definitely design for participation and not just presentation. So keep content relevant, emotionally meaningful, and interactive so your audience isn't just watching, but they're also part of that experience. experience.
No, so that makes a ton of sense. And so based off of what you're seeing, can you actually, talk a little bit more about what's going on in the current industry?
Yeah, I think that's a really great place for us to start here this afternoon. So I do want to start with just a simple truth that many of us are feeling, and that's that our events aren't just expected to work anymore, they're expected to perform, and they really must connect emotionally and deliver strategically. They need to resonate with audiences and move the needle for the business. So we're in an experience economy. And that, becomes an expectation economy. Whether you're hosting 50 executives or 5,000 hybrid attendees, people now expect experiences to be meaningful, measurable, and personalized. Not just memorable, but really effective. So this shift has put a new pressure on event professionals as yourselves, and you're being asked to deliver clarity in messaging and purpose, consistency across every brand touch point, engagement for both in-person and virtual audiences, and most of all, measurement. Not just head count or post-event surveys, but proof that your event really moved people. And I mean that, truly moved them emotionally, behaviorally, and strategically. So here's the challenge. Traditional metrics are broken. Attendance doesn't equal engagement, and clicks don't tell you what resonated. And those surveys, well, you've probably seen the 2 a.m. responses that say, I left early, parking was terrible. We really need better answers, which is why so many of us are shifting our focus from ROI to ROX, return on experience. So because to understand performance, we need to measure what truly matters. So what moved your audience? What moments stuck? And what really sparked action? So that's really being driven by changing audience expectations. So people now want more interactivity, personalized journeys, that multi-sensory storytelling, and experiences that really reflect their values and identities. And they want these experiences to feel just as good online as they do in the room. So improving the attendee experience is really the #1 priority for event professionals. And all of this is reshaping how we design and deliver experiences. So production is no longer just logistics, it's a strategic lever. LED environments like the one behind us are becoming storytelling canvases. AI is powering real-time personalization, and digital platforms like Huddle Area, which are all in here today, it's now ensuring hybrid audiences are part of that action and not just watching from the sidelines. At the same time, measuring these moments across platforms, formats, and emotional response requires new tools. And that's why we're so excited to introduce Leap later today, our new emotional analytics platform that captures how audiences truly respond to content in real time. So here's the bottom line. Today's events must do more than inform or impress. They must inspire action. And to do that, we really need a new mindset, one that fuses strategy, creative, and data to design experiences that move people and measure what matters most. So let's explore how to make that future real, starting now. Sarah?
No, awesome. Thank you, Virginia. I love that. Powerful insights, and it's really important to set the stage on how expectations are evolving. And that actually leads us straight into the next part of our conversation. So what should we actually be focusing on in 2026? And I know everyone attending today most likely has a lot on your plate. And so we've identified 3 key priorities that can help planners lead with more clarity, more creativity, and more confidence. So Virginia, I'm actually going to hand it right back over to you to take the first one.
Absolutely. So let's talk about storytelling, because for all the talk about formats and platforms and technology, the real differentiator in experience design today is still the story. But here's the catch. Your audiences can smell inauthenticity a mile away. And in 2026, the goal isn't just to tell a story, it's to tell the right story. The one that aligns with your audience's values, your brand's purpose, and the context of the moments that you're meeting them in. And that's what makes an experience memorable. It's what builds trust and what actually drives business outcomes. So what do we mean by experience design? Loaded question. It's not just about scenic design or show flow. Experience design is the intentional choreography of message, emotion, environment, and interaction. It's how we engineer moments that move people, both intellectually and emotionally. So at JPL, we think about experience design as multi-layered, strategic at the top. What's that business outcome? Emotional in the middle. What do we want people to feel? Tactical at the bottom. How do we activate this physically, digitally, or even socially? When those layers are aligned, you get clarity. When they're off, you get noise. So let's get back to that storytelling. Right now, audiences, especially Gen Z and younger millennials, are demanding authenticity above all. It's not enough to look good on screen, you have to be real. And that means that stories need to reflect real people and perspectives, be grounded in lived experience, avoid brand speak and marketing polish that just feels too rehearsed, and above all, create space for participation, not just consumption. Story living is the new storytelling. Your audience wants to see themselves in the narrative, not as bystanders, but as characters. And that's why we see a rise in immersive storytelling formats, multi-perspective narratives, and content designed to be co-created. So what's the goal for 2026? We really believe it's this: to design experiences that feel human and that create meaning, not just memory. Yes, we want them to remember it, but more importantly, we want them to internalize it and to believe it and then to act on it. And the way we get there is through real stories, well-told stories that tap into truth, identity, purpose, and emotional insight. So why does this matter for your event or your brand experience? Well, because audiences are not asking, what did this look like? They're asking, did it feel real? Was it worth my time? Did I feel like I belonged there? If you can answer yes to those questions, you've succeeded. And from there, measurement becomes a lot more meaningful because you're no longer just counting butts and seats, you're understanding how your story landed, how it resonated, and what moved people. That's the experience design mindset. And that's what we believe is at the core of event performance in 2026. The best brand experiences aren't the ones that shout the loudest. They're the ones that listen first and then tell a story that feels undeniably true. That's what we're designing for. And that's how we can move from content that fills time to experiences that truly matter. Authentic storytelling sets the direction, but technology really determines how powerfully it lands. So Ryan's gonna walk through that next. Ryan?
Awesome, thanks. Yeah, so authentic storytelling, event goals, and learning objectives are certainly at the core of what we're building. And now we get into a vast number of technologies that, when used correctly, can certainly amplify the storytelling, but when used poorly, they can quickly become a distraction, right? So at the end of the day, to have a great live experience, you need a seasoned team that knows exactly what they're doing. And Virginia touched on experience design and authentic storytelling. Now we're going to layer on tech. We're talking about live events that have certainly come a long way, but it still breaks down into a few key buckets. So we'll start with lighting and sound, also known as audio visual, but that sounds like the kid pushing the cart in high school.
Welcome to AV Club.
AV Club, yeah. So today we'll go with lighting and sound. What's new in these areas? LED screens, they're not new, but they're certainly becoming the norm and not the exception. So LED screens create a digital canvas, like Virginia said, and they can take any shape you want. So powerful computers and software, combined with some very talented programmers, can make these screens act as a cohesive unit, then independently, and then back again. So if you're thinking about all your visuals in that 16:9 world, it's time to expand your view. The LED, it's reliable, and the price points come way down, and it's definitely a tool that should be in your toolkit.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So another thing, it's great, that live events are once again bringing people together in real life. There's so much value in bringing people together for an experience. It's that IRL, in real life, and it's where connections happen and ideas are born. So for corporate events, it's where coworkers become teammates, and for an industry event, it might be where brand loyalties are first formed. But we must accept that the pandemic brought a new expectation that's here to stay, and that's the hybrid option. So if you're having a physical live event, there is often an expectation that there will be a hybrid option. And to do this effectively, you once again need the right storytellers. We need people that can blend a live audience and an online audience, and both need to feel part of the event. So the flow of the event is critical, but again, so is the tech. And to really elevate the experience of an online audience, a bespoke online event experience is key. So people are jumping on Zoom and Teams, like we said, 4, 5, even 6 times a day, and it's just becoming commonplace. So you don't want your event to be just another Zoom call. So a customized hybrid platform like the one we're in right now can make the mundane into something memorable. And then outside of the custom brandings, you can provide your attendees with supporting information, reinforce messages, allow follow-ups and replays post-event, and let the virtual attendees be part of the in-person experience. And how do we do this? So, start by providing chats, polling, and Q&A, and let the people on site use the same channels as the online audience. So let both audiences overlap as much as possible. And yes, chats, polling, Q&A, they're not new, but using them correctly at the right time is key, and they need to fold into the overall story. And the tech for these pieces needs to be spot on, or the people, they're just not going to use them. So we need to really aim for zero barriers to entry here.
No, absolutely.
So let me show you a quick example of what I mean. So on the computer, check out the slide, and you can go ahead and follow along and click that button in your version of Huddleary, and it's going to bring up a QR code. Now, if you scan that QR code with your phone, what's going to happen is that it's going to open a second screen on your phone, and you can use that to interact with the event. So you can watch the event on your screen, and then you can chat and provide Q&A input right from your phone. Now, the in-room audience can use these same interaction tools at the event. So we would pop a QR code up on the main screen, everyone would take out their phone and scan it, and now everyone online and in person, they're chatting and sending QAs within that same platform. So there's that overlap we were talking about. And these are just a few ways to make it a hybrid event and not just event with a video feed. But it comes back to the same principles: great storytelling, awesome experience design, strong messaging, and the right tech at the right time. All right, AI, you guys knew it was going to be in here somewhere. Couldn't avoid it. Yeah, there's endless ways that AI can enhance live events, and we're going to take a look at a revolutionary use in a few minutes here. But first, let me tell you a story about something we're working on right now. So we call it the digital concierge. And I don't know why I have adopted a bad French accent whenever I say the word concierge. Can't help it, we're going to roll with it. So what did we do? We took a chatbot system, and this is powered by OpenAI's large language models, and we provide it with tons of information about an event. We're talking about the schedules, meals, frequently asked questions, hotel maps, key messages, guest speakers, and more. And we use a version of chatbot that allows for verbal conversation. We're not just typing with this chatbot. And we created an avatar and gave it a home on a portable LED display. And what we got is a digital concierge that's ready to interact with the event attendees and on a personal level. So it can also know about you, the attendee, and adding that personalization aspect that everyone's seeking to deliver. It knows who you are, it knows where you're supposed to be, it can ask you if you like this specific morning breakout. It's personalization without being creepy. And don't worry, we'll help you find that balance that works for your specific audience. So at a high level, it can be a memorable experiential moment. It can provide real answers that people need. It can gamify the event, and it can really add to the overall event story. I mean, honestly, 5 years from now, this might be commonplace, but for now, we see it as a way to differentiate your event, and it's really cool. So, you guys want to get a little risky?
Woo.
All right, we're going to have a conversation with our concierge over here. So, for this webinar, I've named our concierge Webinardo.
Webinardo.
Now, Webinardo. You can name it whatever you want. That's the beauty of it.
Okay.
So, without further ado, let's give it a roll here. Hey, Webinardo. I've been chugging coffee all morning. How do I get to the bathroom from here? Let me ask him one more time. Hey, Webinardo. I've been chugging coffee all morning. How do I get to the bathroom from here? What does he usually say?
Oh, it usually visually says, you have to go straight for about 30 feet, take a left down the hall. You can go ahead and continue down the hall by 10 feet, and then it should be the door on your right.
All right, all right. Yes, and with all the microphones going through, I'm not sure Webinardo can actually hear me. So I'll give it.
Oh, he definitely can't.
Yeah, all right, I'll give it one more try. Webinardo, what's next on the agenda? It's just not going to happen today.
Well, we could try again later when we go to the Q&A.
Yeah, all right. So for now, we'll hand it over to Jeff, and you can tell us what's next.
Great, thank you, Ryan. Virginia talked about designing stories that land, that resonate, that move people. But how do we know when they do? Measurement is no longer optional, it's expected. Clients are treating events as strategic, measurable investments. They want dashboards after every event. It's that return on experience. It's not just about leads generated or dollars influenced. It's about emotional impact, trust built, loyalty earned. The stuff's harder to measure, but often matters more. If you can't prove the impact of your events, you're at a disadvantage. The tools are evolving to meet it. Heat maps can show us where people cluster, what draws attention, where energy builds in the space. RFID tracking can help us understand attendee flow, which breakouts drew interest, where they went next, how long people stayed. Social listening captures what's being shared in real time. These all add to the pieces of the puzzle, but there's still a gap. Virtual events and online experiences have metrics built in. Consider this. Right now on this webcast, I know a little about you. I can watch reactions in the chat. I can run a poll. I can get instant feedback. If I'm losing you, I might notice. After the event, I'll even be able to look at the player activity and gain more insight. But at a live event, a keynote with 500 people in a ballroom, I'm flying blind. The best I can do is squint out into the crowd and hope I see some nodding heads. Maybe some laughs if I'm lucky. And then weeks later, I get a survey back where someone rated a session a 3 out of 5, and I have no idea how that score was earned. So post-event surveys have been our default for decades, but let's be honest about their limitations. Time creates distance. By the time someone fills out that survey, they've had a bad flight home, a cold hotel room, and 3 days of emails piling up. Their memory of your session is filtered through all of that. Surveys captures opinions, not reactions. There's a difference between what someone felt in the moment and what they remember feeling days later. Without the when, it's not possible to pinpoint the exact moment the audience leaned in or checked out. So we asked ourselves, what if we could capture what's happening in the room in real time? What if we could see engagement and emotional response as it unfolds, not as it's remembered? What if we could use it to shape and improve the storytelling? And this year, thanks to an innovation we call LEAP, we are focused on bringing that guidance to live events and experiences.
Jeff, I'm going to have to interrupt though, because you know what? We all love acronyms, but I really want to make sure that we're on the same page because, IRL, whatever millennials and Gen Z are saying now, but LEAP, I want to make sure that we all know what that is. So let's break down this acronym before we move on. I also want to explore around huddle area a little bit more, so take a peek, go ahead and select that poll tab. You should go ahead and see that a poll is live. So once you navigate to that poll area, there's going to be a multiple choice question to continue. So my question, hopefully it's not a difficult test. What do you all think LEAP stands for? Long-term Event Advancement Plan. That sounds very serious, very important to advance plans. Live Event Analytics Platform. Let everyone applaud politely. That one, I love that one. And Leadership Engagement Acceleration Program. All right, so go ahead and make your selection. Oh, we're already getting some answers in. While we're waiting for some other results, Jeff, when we were talking about this, it actually reminded me of a memory from 3 years ago. You and I were standing in the warehouse, and you said, hey, Sarah, I have this idea. We were working on a trade show booth, and you're like, what if I could heat map, where people are going? And I'm like, there's no way That's pretty cool. Do you really think that we can pull this off? And so the fact that you and I get to sit here now and talk about LEAP and see what you and our full team have been able to come up with, it's been pretty awesome to see it come to fruition. So, love a little throwback. Okay, I do love that 2 people selected. Let everyone applaud politely. But correct. The answer is Live Event Analytics Platform. And again, I do hope that was an easy one. So one more question for all of our attendees, and we've been talking a lot already about emotional insight and measuring what matters. So for this one, we're going to go back to that chat thread for our conversation, but how are you measuring audience engagement today? We really want to know. We want to know what's working for you, where you're still guessing, and in a blue sky, rainbow scenario, what would you love to know about your audience that you can't currently see? So continue to go ahead and drop those answers in our chat thread here, but we'd love to actually continue our conversation. What we're all hearing and seeing is that traditional metrics only go so far. They're important, but they can be limited. And so that's why, Jeff, I'm excited to not interrupt you anymore, to introduce LEAP, it's our new platform that takes measurement to the next level.
Yeah, so we established LEAP is our live event analytics platform, and it uses AI-powered facial analysis to track audience response in real time. Now, this type of analysis has been around for many years. What's new is how we're using it. So we start with cameras positioned in the room, and these are discrete, hardly noticeable little cameras that can blend right into the background.
Yeah, especially from like 40 feet looking at a stage, that's going to hide.
So this isn't like a reality TV camera in my face watching me watch something.
Not at all.
Okay, we love to see it.
So these cameras capture the expressions through data points on the face, eyes, nose, mouth, cheeks, and eyebrows. Because privacy is a big concern, no video is recorded or stored. The system analyzes this locally and only saves anonymized numerical data. We're not capturing faces, we're capturing reactions. We get 2 important metrics. First, engagement. Is the audience paying attention? The system tracks eye direction. Are they looking at the stage, the screen, or somewhere else? This gives us an engagement score throughout the session. Second is emotional response. The technology maps those facial points and calculates the likelihood of the core emotional states: happy, surprised, neutral, and angry. So the data is collected from multiple faces every second, and we can chart that engagement and emotional response on a timeline. So we can see exactly when engagement peaked and when it dipped, when something landed or when it didn't. Let me tell you about 2 speakers we analyzed. Both were at the same event, same audience, same room setup, but the data shows 2 very different stories. The first was a seasoned presenter, someone who's been on stage for years and has had time to hone their craft, and you could see it in the data. Engagement was consistently high throughout. But what was interesting was watching the emotional response. This presenter used storytelling and humor intentionally, and we could see it working. Peaks of surprise during comedic moments, the audience reacting in real time, and when he hit his key messages, we saw something specific. Anger spiked during the discussion of pain points. Now, the audience wasn't upset with him. They were connecting with the problem he was describing. They felt it. Then, as he moved into his conclusions, we saw attention stay high while happy and surprise rose together. The message was landing. The data showed a presenter who knew exactly when to create tension, when to release it, and when to drive that point home. Now, the second presenter was newer at presenting, and the data showed something different. Not failure, but opportunity. Engagement stayed high throughout. The audience was with him, but emotional connection was inconsistent. At certain points, you could see a disconnect. He jumped to a topic that didn't resonate. And while people were still watching, they weren't really feeling it. The emotional signal went flat. But then something shifted. He started talking about his family, something personal, something real, and you could see the audience reconnect. Engagement stayed strong and emotional response climbed. He ended on a high note and his core message did land. just not at the same level as the first presenter and not as consistently throughout. So here's the key takeaway. Sure, both presenters looked so successful. I mean, they had full rooms, they had applause, and they had plenty of energy. But LEAP revealed the difference between a talk that simply held attention and one that truly moved people. And even more important, that second presenter now has something most speakers, even professional presenters, never get: actionable insight to make their story even stronger next time. That's the real unlock here. It's not just measurement and feedback. It makes everything better for the presenters because they have something to work with. So for speakers, it's coaching grounded in evidence. Not, I think the section was slow, but here's where attention dipped and here's where it came back. You can refine a presentation before the high stakes moment, or debrief afterwards with something more useful than applause and survey scores. For content, it's validation. That video you spent weeks on, now you know if it moved people. That panel you thought was the highlight of your event, well, maybe the audience checked out halfway through. You can stop guessing. For event design, it's pattern recognition. If you see consistent dips at the 45-minute mark across multiple sessions, maybe your blocks are too long. If engagement spikes during interactive moments, maybe you need more of them. LEAP turns those hunches into evidence. And ultimately, it's return on experience. You can show stakeholders not just that people attended, but that they were engaged, that they responded emotionally, and that the story landed. And that's fundamentally different conversation than we had 500 people in the room. Data-driven insights. It's just one part of how events are evolving. Sarah's going to wrap things up.
No, thank you, Jeff, and that's really exciting. So, from everything that our speakers shared today, I can sum it up in one sentence. If you cannot see what moved your audience, you cannot measure the experience. And if you are not measuring your experience, you are actively losing out on demonstrating your return on investment accurately. We know that there are a lot of things working well in event planning, but what if making intentional shifts could make event planning and ultimately your event results even better? And so, when we take a step back, these shifts that we've talked about today are not exclusively a measurement change. It's a shift in how experiences are designed, delivered, and evaluated to make that end result more impactful. We heard from Virginia about experience design. Yes, information transfer is still important. The topics that you need to cover in your agenda are still important. But what if we started to shift to an audience-first programming, leaning into that story living, I love that, story living over storytelling. Starting with mapping your emotional takeaways first, we can make your event stand out more, meeting audiences where they are at. We heard from Ryan about tech and production. So yes, all those AV School Club, participants, but no, it's important to ensure that your AV is logistically sound and checks all of those boxes. But what if we shift to start looking at maximizing your tech and your production approach as a strategic lever to better stretch and maximize your budget? And we know hybrid is not going away, and we also know that sometimes it could be easier to prioritize in-room audiences over remote. However, when we think about that pre-planning, what if we looked at both audiences and your tech stack and your agenda to make it more equally balanced for all participants? And finally, we heard from Jeff on measurement, the fundamentals of measuring events, that participation metrics, those feedback collections, social reach for your brand engagement, impressions from your brand engagement, those shouldn't go away. But layering on that with a plan and a measurement plan from day one, instead of a post-event survey, looking at things post the event happening, you're taking that opportunity now to track sentiment analytics and behavior change. That's what it really means to move the needle in moving events and maximizing on your return on investment. So, these takeaways are great from what we've talked about, but I know the real question for me is, and I would assume the same would be for our event planners, is what should we actually do next? So that's where return on experience, that lovely ROX, becomes practical. So, we want to make this exceptionally clear. This is not about adding more work. It's about making the work we already do as event planners and marketers more intentional, more impactful, creating more measurable, trackable success for all of that hard work that you are all putting into your events to make them happen. So we have a very simple ROX checklist that you can use to pressure test your next experience. You can also find this in the footer of our Huddle Area page so that you can download it to keep in your virtual back pocket as you start planning your next event. So, so our 3 big categories that we've talked about today. Experience design. Do you have your defined single outcome? Number 2, what do you want your participants, not your speakers, but your participants, to think, feel, and do after they've attended your experience? How does your agenda match how the people who are attending engage? And number 4, have we designed intentional moments for interaction or decision making? Tech and production. Does your production plan and tech reduce friction and increase connection, or is this just checking the box? And number 2, are all event attendees considered equally between remote and in-room? And then finally, we have our measurement. So thinking about measurement, question number 1, are you able to capture engagement signals during the event, or is it only after your experience? Do you have one clear way to assess impact with the audience after that event has ended? And then finally, this is actually my favorite question because I think it's like a really good elevator pitch. Can you explain your meeting's value in 60 seconds without citing attendance? You know, that's really important. So we know from experience that these shifts in mindset as you plan your event, that they work. In fact, there are a lot of these principles that we are helping clients and teams today apply right now as they rethink how experiences perform, but still, that they're meeting high and shifting demands from their key stakeholders. So, with that, we want to turn it over to you. I already see a couple questions in the chat that we want to get to. Go ahead, drop those questions into the Q&A tab. As you start to think about your questions, we have a few housekeeping items. As a reminder, we will be sending out a recording of today's session so that you can rewatch and share with your extended teams. The direct link, here, we're going to have Jeff open the iPad because I accidentally clicked the off button. Thank you, Jeff.
You're welcome.
So that I can actually read all of your questions. That QR code here on the slide, that actually is going to take you to our Contact Us page. So if you want to continue the conversation with us, go ahead, scan that, fill out the form, and that'll actually allow you to schedule time with our experts to continue to talk about how we can help make your events more impactful. And fun fact, those forms do come to me, so I can't wait to hear from you. In addition, the links to our LinkedIn profiles are going to be dropped into the chat so that you can actually connect with us right away. If you can tell, we love to talk. We want to connect, we want to chat. So, questions time. All right, are we ready?
We're ready.
Awesome. So, looking at all of our questions here as we go ahead, I do have a little bit of a left turn. It sounds like Webinardo might have had his lunch snack, and I'd love to try it again if we're all comfortable with that. So Ryan, while you get in place, I think, Jeff, I'm going to ask you a quick question to start thinking about.
Okay.
So, what are some other use cases for Leap?
Yeah, I mean, I gave one example, just how we use it in a ballroom, but it can be applied to so many different ways. From a focus group where you might just want to test out some new content or a new user interface for equipment, who knows, you can really get that initial information from a small group. Or my favorite, and it's you kind of leaned into it a little bit, how we started this whole thing out, is trade shows. We actually recently just redesigned a booth based on a previous year's data set.
Yes, yeah.
We can take a heat map around the different areas of the booth to indicate which areas are getting the attention, and we can use the same kind of analytics to see if the content we're creating for screens or other activities in the booth are getting those kind of reactions that you want.
Even product placement, right?
Yeah, ironically with that one, it helped us inform that while designing this year's booth that we didn't need a digital screen within the booth because it actually was the least visited spot in the booth. Because we're seeing that digital fatigue across, when you go to trade shows, you're seeing a lot of screens, a lot of content going on the screens. So we knew not to put a screen in the booth, and we put more interactivity, hands-on areas based off of that data and insight.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
I think we're going to put Webinardo and we're going to pressure test him first again. I know we have some other LEAP questions after that. So I think we're ready to go.
You guys realize this is like a recurring nightmare that I have.
Oh, I know.
And it's coming to life
listen,
right now. And now you want me to do it again. But okay.
What are we asking Webinardo?
Oh, I'm still I would like directions. I still think he can, because it's pretty cool. We actually have done this where we set these LED screens in different areas and they know where in the hotel or conference center they are, and they can give those accurate directions. You can even change it if you're being funny with them. You can tell them to do it in centimeters or inches, and it's pretty cool.
No,
so,
awesome. Sorry to.
You must know something I don't. So, hey, Webinardo, I've been drinking coffee all day. How do I get to the bathroom?
Head out the studio doors, go straight for about 30 feet. At the end of the hall, take a left and continue for approximately 10 feet. The bathrooms will be on your right.
There it is.
There it is.
My man.
Listen, and I think that that's also proof that we are doing this live.
Yeah, that's what we wanted to prove.
That wasn't a button. That wasn't a pre-play.
Hold on. Now he's apologizing to me.
As he
no,
should.
It's too late.
No, thank you. And thank you, Webinardo, for finally showing up to the party. So going back to our questions, we have a really great one from Stephanie. I'm not going to mispronounce it, Maslish. Love that last name. But does that analysis that we provide include demographics?
Yes, actually, it does. It includes a range of things. We don't just hand over an Excel sheet of just data over time. It does capture gender, likelihood. I mean, obviously, we can't know exactly, but likelihood of gender and likelihood of age, we can get that. And then we also then take the content that was done, like the transcript, if you will, of the event, and we'll analyze that in and give you a highlight kind of how the audience reacted at different times. We'll break down the points where maybe attention dipped and maybe why, and like top 5 moments, top bottom moments.
Yeah, it's very similar to if we were delivering web analytics. We wouldn't just hand you over the numbers and say good luck. It's really about having the experts on our side who have done events for years, analyzing that data and looking at those key points, marking it up, highlighting areas, and having a conversation with you about how you could improve your event, or what really landed and what maybe didn't, and the reasons why behind it. It's not just this worked, this didn't. It's, hey, based on my years of experience and these analytics that I've received, I can tell you that this session went too long. Like, that was one of the examples. Or this speaker really needs to bring it, too much jargon was used, or whatever it might be. But we have the answers, and we match those up with the numbers that come out, and that's how you get the full picture.
So yeah, it sounds like with when we're talking about the LEAP and the analysis, you're getting benefits for your speakers, you're getting benefits to see how your audience actually reacted, and you're also seeing what had impact. But even with that anecdote that you shared, Virginia, we're also providing hey, here's what you need to tweak, based in data, not opinion.
And that's the key. It's not just a feeling of someone writing an angry review of the event.
The room is too cold.
Yeah. The nice part about it is like you don't have to be reserving this sort of technology for a special event or something that you want to, gauge. To the point of the trade show booth, it is really great to take advantage of it, get it in there, get a base reading, especially if you have events that you're creating year over year. It's really helping you gauge what's working, what's not, so that you can pivot the next year and make it better and create something that resonates more with your audience as well.
No, this is really great. And actually, Virginia, your question really aligns well with a question that we got from one of our attendees. So let me read this where is it? My biggest event challenge is keeping internet interactivity new and different. Okay, keeping interactivity new and different, and can this help me recommend breaks and prevent audience fatigue? So what are I'm gonna put you all on the spot as you start thinking about it, but what are ways that we can use technology to make interactivity new and different? I think for both virtual, hybrid, and in-person events.
Yeah, I think it's very connected to the timing question, right?
Yeah.
Like, if you're losing people, you want to bring in that interactivity, and there's lots of different ways to do it. And you've seen a couple here today. So there's the polling aspect of things, but sometimes we found that, you know, if you want more free-flowing and quick answers, the chat's the way to go, right? So the Q&A in a poll is a little more directed sometimes, where you have a multiple choice or something like that. But if you're just encouraging people to have a moderator like we have today in the chat, kind of getting people to interact rather than just hoping someone's going to start the conversation, that's a pro move that we use a lot, to bring a moderator in. And a lot of times that's the client, and we train them up on the system so they can participate and push that conversation in ways that match how the meeting is progressing.
Yeah, I think the important thing to remember too is so often, you know, clients might say like, we want the biggest, the best, or we want the interactivity. It really is all about taking a step back and knowing your audience.
Yeah.
And, you know, we talked about a lot of things here today, and they're all scalable, and it's all about kind of bringing that right recipe together, and it starts with knowing your audience. You know, what is that goal that you're really setting out to do? Your audience could very well not like the interaction, and you may be more successful in other ways. So again, not having interaction for interaction's sake, but making sure that it's going to be meaningful for your attendees, and crafting the way that you're putting it all together for them to get the most impactful experience.
Yeah, I feel like gamification is underutilized too. There are so many
And
competitive
underutilized
people.
well. Yeah.
There's so many competitive people out there, and it may not have to be an in-session interaction. You're not just limited to in-session interactivity. You can do interactivity from the moment they land and register to the point they leave. So we're, you know,
Yeah, especially with an app that is a conference app, you can push that gamification right through there, and then you're engaging with them. Like you said, Jeff, we sometimes, you know, we can do things like, we know you're at the front desk. Based on proximity, we can, you know, do the welcome or start a game as soon as they enter the conference or the hotel or whatever it might be.
Yeah, and even if it's a brand engagement, you know, don't just hand out the free T-shirt. You know, add some gamification to it, add some brand engagement to it. And I think, you know, when you're thinking about interactivity, don't make assumptions that you know your audience. Make sure that you do, and just like that checklist that we have, make sure that you have that one outcome outlined.
Right.
So moving on to some other questions here too as well. Okay. Looking at, a budget question. Okay. So Virginia, I think I'm actually going to give this one to you. If you had to cut 20% of your budget today, what would you protect from an event execution standpoint?
Yeah, I mean, that's a very valid question. I would say definitely, you know, protect the pieces that really drive that emotional engagement. So your story, your content experience, and really how it's delivered. You know, you can scale back on some of that extra stuff, but don't cut what connects you with your audience and your attendees. A lean event, you know, can still be powerful. You know, it's just, you want it to make sure that you're moving your people.
Yeah, you know, big and amazing doesn't always mean big and amazing.
Correct. Yeah.
No, that is awesome.
Yeah.
I do have a Webinardo question. Not that we have to ask him. We don't have to ask him. But you know, are you able to have Webinardo be heard, or whatever you want to name your digital concierge, on something as loud like a trade show booth floor?
Yeah, Jeff and I have been working on just that, and we've been experimenting with building sort of shells around it to kind of direct that sound, and then Jeff would install different speakers to kind of push that sound in the specific direction that the person would be standing in. So yeah, there's lots of, I mean, that's just an LED panel. We can build around that and then put it at the center. And it doesn't need to be that LED panel either. It could be a smaller panel with inside. It's really just anywhere that we would have that concierge live. But yeah, trade show booths is key. And the other thing, and we tested this at our holiday party, right?
Yes.
So we had that in a very loud space. And another challenge that we overcame is making sure that the avatar can hear the speaker. So
And not
with
the
some
ambient noise.
Yeah, the ambient noise, so the omnidirectional mics and things like that. Jeff, any technical wizardry that went into that? I know there was.
There was. I mean, it was an activation, and in fact, we've had a little bit of fun with how you might activate it, from lasers to just a simple button. But it's really about taking it into an interactive, like action to activate it. That seems natural. And then the technology around it's actually a lot easier than what we've done to ourselves today, putting us in a soundproof studio.
Yeah, we have wires trying to let it hear me out through the control room and back.
So yeah, it's just about does the activation make sense? Does it fit with your theme? And then it's a microphone and speaker setup. But in a booth, trade show booth, that's pretty straightforward. And it's we would direct the audio so you wouldn't annoy everyone around you. And that would.
So, and I think too that we're not shipping the digital concierge around like a flat Stanley. We're pairing that with someone from your teams, right? Like that, we're making sure that you have that tech available.
I mean, unless the client feels real comfortable and they come in here and have lessons on it, which we could absolutely do. I mean, we'd set this up in the warehouse weeks before and start red testing it and making sure it's giving appropriate answers.
Yes.
And we have put some guardrails on it. And that happens with the coding as well. Like we can give it those instructions of basically giving it a persona and what it can and can't answer in many situations. So yeah, it could definitely be that, but we're more than happy to come on site and run it all.
Perfect. We have a couple of really great questions, so I'm going to try and get through 3 of them. Speed round in the next 8 minutes.
Okay.
So question number 1 of our speed round: how do you design experiences that feel immersive without feeling overwhelming? That's a question from Ryan Wilson.
That is a really great question. Again, I think it just all goes back to noting your audience and what are you really setting out to do from a strategy perspective. Again, you don't need to have all of the bells and whistles. To that point, it can be very overwhelming. So knowing your audience, where are you setting it up? What space are you inhabiting? What are your goals? What are you setting out to do? And creating that sort of recipe to bring it all together. So much of what we're seeing is, and I had mentioned it earlier, is people are just so inundated with screens and digital, and we're on our phones all of the time, that shift back to just like in real life and touching things
Yes.
and kind of like old school is actually excelling so much further than a digital screen with something playing back. But again, knowing your audience is so key, and it doesn't have to be the biggest and the greatest, because that doesn't always resonate or isn't always authentic.
Yeah, and when we're throwing around these ideas, accessibility comes into play too,
Absolutely.
right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I mean,
It's top of
anything
mind
from
for us.
like, too much flashing light to just cognitive overload.
Absolutely. We have to keep all of that
All
in
the
mind.
accessibility things that you would expect
Yep.
really need to be delivered on.
Yes.
No questions.
No, and when we operate with, we firmly believe that we want to operate as an extension of our clients' teams, and this is where we're able to add that value, kind of take away the noise, because we know that there's a lot of things that you need to achieve from a brand standpoint, from an event standpoint, and we're able to make sure that the points that you're connecting with on your audience are the ones that are going to have the most impact, because it can be very easy to get, lost in the sauce of the
Absolutely.
immersion.
Absolutely. You're so far in, having the coolest thing that you're disconnected from what you're really setting out to do. And again, that goes back to that core connection with your audience, that authenticity, that storytelling. Like you definitely don't want to lose sight of that.
Yeah, no, awesome. Next question. So how do you see AI emerging, tech being integrated into events? Ooh, AI. Ryan, I'm going to hand this one to you. This is from Rachel Yu.
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of things. So obviously what we saw, well, there's 2 AI things that we looked at today, right? So the large language models that we're actually able to converse with and have it become sort of another attendee at the event that's interacting with audiences. And then obviously LEAP, the system, is backed entirely by AI technology. The way it's interpreting the facial expressions goes through an algorithm, and that's how we're getting the data so quickly. So that definitely, those are two uses of AI that we went over today. I think one of the exciting things we're going to see is that agentic AI. So, and by that I mean AI agents that are doing multiple things on your behalf and then bringing back information. So we were brainstorming one here the other day that if we had a trade show and we wanted to get, wanted to know when we should send out push notifications to have people come visit the booth for like one-on-one time with the folks, there's a whole bunch of AI agentic things that we can do to make sure those people are getting the messages when the booth is less crowded, so we're maximizing the number of people that move through. So
that's definitely
lots of different ways we can go with that.
No,
one.
that makes complete sense. So our final question of our speed round before we do some wrap up. So, what would you say would be the boldest shift that event teams need to make in the next 12 months? And so I am going to ask each of you. Jeff, I'm going to start with you.
Okay. I don't know that it's bold, but it's definitely necessary, and that is don't skimp on rehearsal time. Lately, I've seen a shift, and it's budgetary driven. It's executives don't have a lot of time on their plate, like they still need to rehearse though. Everyone needs to rehearse. So we've talked about authenticity. Your audience will see it if you're not authentic, but they'll also see it if you don't prepare. So don't skimp on that. We've seen it start to kind of creep into our production schedules, and it definitely has impact, and the audience will know. So I'd say keep on rehearsing.
Yeah, and I'll piggyback off that. It's not the presenters rehearsing, but more of the people that are running the chats and the Q&As, that they know how to do it beforehand, so we're not struggling day of. Those are things that can be taught a week before, 2 weeks before. They can try it out, because a lot of times, like I said, the people that are pushing the QA questions to you would be, would want to be a client in a lot of situations, pushing it to their presenter. So making sure that is smooth and everyone knows, the left hand knows what the right hand's doing on those kind of behind the scene things is just as important, in my opinion, as the presenters rehearsing as well.
Mm-hmm. No, perfect. Yeah, Virginia.
Bring us home.
I would probably say stop measuring success by attendance alone, and start really designing for that emotional impact that we talked about. Event teams just really need to be prioritizing what truly moves people, and invest in those tools such as Leap that we talked about, that capture that real-time engagement, and that's really how you stay relevant and prove the value.
No, yeah, I think that really all of this is in line with that, making production not just a checklist, but it's that strategic lever. We've even rehearsed, over the last 3 days, because even if it's a topic that you talk about a lot, or it's a brand that you work for that you're passionate about, that rehearsal, that choreography, I think that you talked about that, Virginia, at the way beginning of our conversation, is really how you make your events as impactful as possible. So thank you for the great participation. Thank you for all the great questions. And I hope that today gave you a clearer perspective on how events need to perform now, emotionally, strategically, and experientially, and why understanding audience responses matters more now than ever. If this sparked new thinking for you, we invite you to continue the conversation with us via LinkedIn, or setting up a short meeting with us so that we can continue our conversation. To wrap up, I want to thank you, Ryan, Virginia, Jeff, Webinardo, for showing up. Home run in the 11th inning. I think that's how baseball works. Thank you all for spending the time with us today. I hope you all have a great rest of your week, and that's a wrap.